reasons, I will say. But if this isn't the video for you, just feel free to click off. I have many other videos, and I'm sure there were a bunch of other ASMR artists that uploaded really, really good content today. But if you are one of those people that really like this combination, which I'm with you, then I hope that you enjoy. I did want to say, I want you guys to know that I do see your requests, and I did see your requests to do the case of Albert Fish, I believe his name is. I got a very good amount of you requesting that one, and I will be honest, I sat down and I started to read about him, and that is one case that I don't know if I'm going to be able to stomach. That one is really bad and really disturbing. Maybe I'll try again another time, but I don't know, I sat down one night and I started reading about him, and like I felt it in my stomach, and I was like, nope, and I stopped reading. So maybe one day, I do see your requests, I will keep it in the back of my mind, but that's not what I'm going to be covering today. Also, my disclaimer, as always, this video is not for children under the age of 14. There's some, these videos are disturbing, so just putting that out there now. But we are going to be covering the case of the son of Sam, which is another very popular case, and I saw one or two requests for it, so I figured that this one would be okay because it's another well-known case. So for this case, I am going to be reading a lot. I have my notes here on my iPad, and there's like 4 or 5 pages of notes here, and there's a lot going on in this case. There are also letters that were written from or by the son of Sam that I'm going to read to you. So just like a little disclaimer that I am going to be reading quite a bit. There's a lot going on in this case here. So as a little introduction, if you've never heard of the son of Sam, the son of Sam was an American serial killer. He was around doing his crime spree in the 70s, roughly, in the New York City area. He is one of the most well-known American serial killers, and he caused one of the biggest police manhunts in the history of New York. Later on, I'm going to tell you where he got his name, the son of Sam, towards the end of the video. But besides the son of Sam, he was also known as the .44 caliber killer. But as you know, I like to give you a little bit of early childhood background on these people. So he does have a real name, believe it or not, and his real name was David Richard Berkowitz, born on June 1st, 1953. He was born in Brooklyn, New York, to his mother named Elizabeth, who mostly went by the name Betty. So you'll hear me refer to Betty once or twice more in this video, and that is his mother. So there's a little background story, of course. So Betty had gotten married prior to, I always forget his first name, David, the son of Sam. Prior to his birth, she was married. They got divorced, and then she had an affair with a married man, and she got pregnant. And this married man threatened to basically just abandon her and, shun her, basically, if she had the baby and used his last name, even though it was his baby. So David, the son of Sam, actually had a different last name, and I didn't write it down because it's really not relevant. So what she did is she had the baby and she put him up for adoption, and he was adopted by a couple named Pearl and Nathan Berkowitz. That's where he got his last name, and they were middle-aged, they had no children, and they were very middle class. They worked at a hardware store, and those were his adoptive parents. lost interest in school and learning, and he became fascinated with stealing cars and setting fires and things like that, which, if you remember, that's like a common theme of all these videos where these criminals, like, who have these like psychological issues, that's one of the things that they do early on in their lives. They start to like set things on fire, and they get like fascinated by that. Neighbors and relatives described him as difficult, as spoiled, and as a bully. Unfortunately, at the age of 14, his adoptive mother died of breast cancer, and after that, his behavior began to worsen because he didn't get along with his adoptive father's new wife. So he basically got a stepmother, and they didn't really get along, so he was just unhappy, and he began to act out even more. And so, you know, he didn't have the worst start, but he wasn't necessarily the happiest child and teenager early in his life. At the age of 17, he joined the service, the U.S. military, and he served in the United States as well as South Korea. He was honorably discharged in 1974, just 3 years later. I don't exactly know why, but he was honorably discharged, and pretty much almost immediately after he was discharged, he went on a hunt for his birth mother. He just wanted to find her and meet her and like see what she was about. So after they visited a few times and they got a little more comfortable with each other, she told him his real birth story of how she had to give him up for adoption and blah 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 blah. And psychologists and experts who have studied the son of Sam, they point to this as his like primary crisis of his life, like the first time that something really went wrong, and the story of his birth and everything really hit him hard, because basically his real parents didn't want him, especially his real birth father wanted nothing to do with him, and so that was really a really tough pill for him to swallow. And then just here, we'll just note that he had several non-professional jobs after being discharged from the service. He was a letter sorter for the U.S. Postal Service, like things like that. Not really relevant, but if you're wondering what he was doing with his time, that's what he was doing. Okay, so now we're gonna get to the crimes that he committed, and they started in the mid-70s, and you'll see how he didn't really know what he was doing right away, and then eventually he found out how to do these things, and he made a name for himself in the press and everything. His crime spree basically, for the most part, went throughout the Bronx, Queens, and Brooklyn boroughs, and he had a very similar victim that he went for every time. He went after primarily young teenage girls with long, dark, wavy hair, and you will notice another similar thing where he usually went after couples, two people, and they were usually like sitting ducks. They were stationary. He went after a lot of people that were just sitting in parked cars. You'll see. But he basically had a type, so keep that in mind. So here's what I'm going to literally go through case by case, and I'm going to read about them all. I don't think I have pictures for every single victim, but I think I have most of them, and so I'll put up the ones that I have, just to kind of, I don't know, out of respect, I guess. Okay, so his first crime ever was on Christmas Eve in 1975. He stabbed 2 women with a hunting knife. This is before he really knew what he was doing. One of the females had never been identified by police, but the other one was teenager Michelle Foreman, who did not lose her life, but she was injured enough where she had to be hospitalized. He was not suspected of these crimes. He got away, soon after, he moved to an apartment in Yonkers, New York, which is like a suburb, not that far from the city at all, like 15-20 minutes, something like that. And that apartment will also kind of come into play later on. So his first shooting ever took place in the Pelham Bay area of the Bronx on July 29th, 1976 at 1:10 a.m. The victims here were 𝓢𝓸𝓬𝓲, who was 18 years old, and 𝓢𝓸𝓬𝓲, who was 19 years old. They were sitting in Jody's parked car, just talking and chatting. And as Donna opened her door to exit the car, she saw a man, the son of Sam, which hadn't made a name for himself yet, but she saw him approaching the car, and he pulled out a gun out of this brown paper bag that he was holding, crouched down, braced his elbow on his knee, and pointed the gun towards the two girls. Donna was struck by the first bullet, which killed her instantly. Jody was shot in her thigh by the next bullet, and the third bullet missed both girls completely, and then the shooter turned and quickly walked away. Jody did not lose her life, she was just shot in the thigh. She described the shooter as a white male in his 30s with a fair complexion, about 5 feet 9 inches tall, and weighing about 160 pounds. Donna's father, the girl who died, her father had then claimed he saw a man of a similar description in an unfamiliar yellow compact car in the area, driving around or sitting in the parked car, and a few neighbors also confirmed that they saw this as well. And that yellow car will also be important later on. It's like Ted Bundy vibes. The next shooting took place on October 23rd, also 1976, in Flushing, Queens. The victims here were 𝓢𝓸𝓬𝓲, who was 20 years old, and his girlfriend Rosemary Keenan, who was 18. They were sitting in a parked car when the windows just began to shatter. And so Rosemary quickly sped away for help, and they didn't really understand what happened. They didn't realize that it had been someone shooting at them that caused the windows to shatter. They didn't really know what was going on. They just did what they could think to do and sped away. Carl, however, had been shot in the head, but he was still alive, and Rosemary only had small cuts from like the shattered glass, so she was okay. Later on, Carl did need a metal plate to replace a portion of his skull, but he did survive. So police determined here that the bullets that were embedded in the car were from a .44 caliber, but they couldn't link them to a particular weapon because apparently they had been so severely damaged in the shooting. And it's important to note here that Carl, he was a male obviously, but he had shoulder length hair, and so police were starting to put two and two together, and they said, well, the shooter probably thought that Carl was a female. However, police made little progress with this case. They didn't link it to his previous shooting, even though it was very similar, because they happened in two different boroughs and they were investigated by two different police precincts, and so nothing really started to develop as of yet. The next shooting happened on November 27th, 1976 in Queens. The victims were Donna DeMassey, who was 26, and Joanne Lumino, who was 18. The girls were just sitting on Joanne's porch, just talking at nighttime, where they were approached by a man in military uniform. Remember, son of Sam used to be in the service. So he approached them and asked in a high-pitched voice, "Can you tell me how to get?" And then before he finished the sentence, he pulled out his gun. Donna had been shot in the neck, but she lived. Joanne was shot in the back. She lived as well, but she became paralyzed from the waist down. was 30, so a little bit older, but still relatively young. So at 12:40 a.m. approximately, 3 bullets had hit their car, and John, who was sitting behind the passenger seat, quickly drove away. He had small injuries, he was fine, but she was shot twice and eventually died hours later in the hospital. They had not seen the attacker, they could not identify him. Most of the victims were completely blindsided, and when asked, could not really give any information about what the man looked like or, where he came from or anything like that. But police, again, they were finally starting to piece things together, that the shootings were all happening in a similar area. It was young women that were being targeted, and it was the same gun being used. On March 8th, 1977, there was another shooting by Columbia University in New York City. And this was one of the few times that the victim was just one person walking by herself rather than like in a couple. At 7:30 p.m., Virginia 𝓢𝓸𝓬𝓲𝓪, who was 19 years old, she was walking home from school, and she was confronted by an armed man, and she tried to use her books to shield herself, but obviously textbooks wouldn't really do much. They were penetrated by the bullets, and she was shot in the head, which unfortunately caused her to lose her life. So now, only 2 days later, on March 10th, 1977, there was a press conference where the NYPD officials declared that the same .44 Bulldog revolver had continuously been used in all of these shootings. So they were basically just telling people, hey, there's a serial killer out there, beware, they're going after young women with, long hair and who are sitting in cars and whatever. Just, you know how police will do that if something big is happening. And then because of this, now the crimes were discussed on the news every day, and there was major, extensive coverage by the New York Post, as well as the Daily News. And so, people were really talking about this, and this was the point where .44 caliber killer, that name kind of became a thing, and that's what he was known as by the public. So now, the next shooting took place on April 17th, 1977 in the Bronx at 3 a.m. The victims were Alexander Esau, who was 20, and Valentina Suriani, who was 18. They were sitting in her car that was parked by her house. Each had been shot twice. She died on the scene, and he died later in the hospital without being able to describe the attacker. And of course, police determined that it was the same gun that was used. Okay, but now something a little different happened at this last crime scene. The son of Sam had actually left a letter by the bodies at the crime scene, and it was addressed to NYPD captain at the time, Joseph Borelli. And this was the first time that the son of Sam had actually given himself the name Son of Sam publicly. And the letter expressed his determination to continue with his crimes, as well as it taunted the police about, come find me, you'll never be able to find me, that kind of thing. So, it's pretty long, so bear with me. I'm going to read the whole thing. The grammar is not good, the spelling is not good, but I am going to read it exactly as it is written. You'll hear him talking about the son of Sam and talking about Sam. Again, I promise you will find out who Sam is later. But yeah, okay, so I'm just going to read it to you. I am deeply hurt by your calling me a women hater. I am not, but I am a monster. I am the son of Sam. I am a little brat. When Father Sam gets drunk, he gets mean. He beats his family. Sometimes he ties me up to the back of the house. Other times he locks me in the garage. Sam loves to drink blood. Go out and kill, commands Father Sam. slaughtered, their blood drained, just bones now. Papa Sam keeps me locked in the attic too. I can't get out, but I look out the attic window and watch the world go by. I feel like an outsider. I am on a different wavelength than everybody else, programmed to kill. However, to stop me, you must kill me. Attention, all police. Shoot me first. Shoot to kill, or else. Keep out of my way, or you will die. Papa Sam is old now. He needs some blood to preserve his youth. He has had too many heart attacks. Too many heart attacks. Ugh, it hurts, sonny boy. I miss my pretty princess most of all. She's resting in Our Lady's house, but I'll see her soon. I am the monster, Beelzebub, the chubby behemoth. I love to hunt, prowling the streets looking for fair game, tasty meat. The women of queens are the prettiest of all. I must be the water they drink. I live for the hunt, my life, blood for Papa. Mr. Borealis, sir, I don't want to kill any more. No, sir, no more, but I must honor thy father. I want to make love to the world. I love people. I don't belong on earth. To the people of Queens, I love you, and I want to wish you all a happy Easter. May God bless you in this life and in the next, and for now I say goodbye and good night. Please let me haunt you with these words. I'll be back, to be interpreted as bang, 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 ugh, yours in murder, Mr. Monster. Okay, so psychology experts studied the letter and they released basically a psychological profile on the suspect that they were looking for, and they diagnosed him as being neurotic and probably suffering from paranoid schizophrenia, and believed himself to be a victim of demonic possession, which makes a lot of sense. So, on May 30th, 1977, a Daily News columnist by the name of Jimmy Breslin received another letter. This one's even longer, but they're really interesting, so bear with me. And of course, yes, it's from the son of Sam, and it reads, "Hello from the gutters of NYC, which are filled with dog manure, vomit, stale wine, urine, and blood. Hello from the sewers of NYC, which swallow up these delicacies when they are washed away by the sweeper trucks. Hello from the cracks in the sidewalks of NYC, and from the ants that dwell in these cracks and feed in the dried blood of the dead that has settled into the cracks. JB, Jimmy Breslin. I am just dropping you a line to let you know that I appreciate your interest in those recent and horrendous .44 killings. I also want to tell you that I read your column daily and I find it quite informative. Tell me, Jim, what will you have for July 29th? You can forget about me if you like, because I don't care for publicity. However, you must not forget Donna Lauria, and you cannot let the people forget her either. She was a very, very sweet girl, but Sam's a thirsty lad, and he won't let me stop killing until he gets his fill of blood. Mr. Breslin, sir, don't think that because you haven't heard from me for a while that I went to sleep. No, rather, I am still here, like a spirit roaming the night, thirsty, hungry, seldom stopping to rest, anxious to please Sam. I love my work. Now the void has been filled. Perhaps we shall meet face to face someday, or perhaps I will be blown away by cops with smoking .38s. Whatever, if I shall be fortunate enough to meet you, I will tell you all about Sam if you like, and I will introduce you to him. His name is Sam the Terrible. Not knowing what the future holds, I shall say farewell, and I will see you at the next job. Or should I say, you will see my handiwork at the next job. Remember, Miss Lauria, Thank you. In their blood and from the gutter, Sam's creation, .44. Here are some names to help you along. Forward them to the inspector for use by NCIC. The Duke of Death, the Wicked King Wicker, the 22 Disciples of Hell, John Wheaties, rapist and suffocator of young girls. P.S. Please inform all of the detectives working the slaying to remain. P.S. J.B. Please inform all the detectives working the case that I wish them the best of luck. Keep 'em digging, drive on, think positive, get off your butts, knock on coffins, etc. Upon my capture, I promise to buy all the guys working the case a new pair of shoes if I can get up the money. Son of Sam. That just hurts my brain, but it didn't escape my attention that the second letter was so much better, grammar wise and spelling wise. I don't know if that was intentional. Maybe he wrote the first letter really bad on purpose. I don't know. But anyway, so moving on, there were 2 more shootings that took place. I'm not really going to go into too much detail, but I will tell you the victims. So the second to last shooting was Sal Lupo, the age of 20, and Judy Placido, who was 17, in Bayside, Queens. They were in a parked car, but both did survive. The last shooting ever, the victims were Stacy Moskowitz, who was 20, and Robert Violante, who was also 20. They were in a parked car. Robert lost one eye, but he survived, and Stacy unfortunately passed away. So now here's how the son of Sam got caught. So the night of the last shooting of Stacy and Robert, there was a woman by the name of Cecilia Davis. I think it's pronounced Cecilia. She was walking her dog, and she saw a police officer on the street, ticketing parked cars that were there. And then she also saw a man on the same street walking towards her, carrying a dark object. She said that's what it was, a dark object. And as he walked by her, he intently studied her and looked at her as he passed by. So she freaked out and ran home. And then almost immediately after she walked into her home, she heard the gunshots that killed Stacy and hurt Robert. So it took her 4 days to call the police. I don't really know why, but 4 days later she called the police and told them what she heard and what she saw. And so they went through the records and they looked at all of the cars that had been ticketed in the area that night. And they found the son of Sam's yellow Ford Galaxy, which had gotten a ticket that night. And remember earlier, the year before, Donna's father said that he had seen a man in an unfamiliar yellow car. So they were like, oh. And they wanted to bring the son of Sam in. So they were going to go to his apartment and they wanted to get a warrant to search everything. But I don't think they ever got it. But what happened was his car was parked outside his apartment. And when they peered in from the outside, a rifle was visible in the back seat. And because they saw that, they had the ability to search the car. So when they investigated his car, they found the rifle, a duffel bag filled with ammunition, maps of all of the crime scenes, and a threatening letter addressed to an inspector on the task force, which I guess he never had the chance to send out. So they didn't want to barge into his apartment building because the hallways were narrow and there were people around, and they didn't, they had a feeling it was going to get ugly. So they waited outside. They waited for him to come outside of his apartment building and sit in his car. That was the approach that they were going for. And so when that eventually happened, 2 detectives took action. One detective named John 𝓢𝓸𝓬𝓲𝓪, and then the other one I couldn't really find a name for him. But Detective John 𝓢𝓸𝓬𝓲 is the one who got recognition for finally arresting the son of Sam. So John 𝓢𝓸𝓬𝓲 went to the driver's said to the suspect, "Who have I got?" "You know," the man said, and what the detective remembered was a soft, almost sweet voice. "No, I don't. You tell me." The man turned his head and said, "I'm Sam." "You're Sam? Sam who?" "Sam David Berkowitz." How many of you are going to make jokes because my name is Sam? I didn't even think of that. Anyway, so once they had him detained, then they were able to go and investigate his apartment. They found satanic graffiti on the walls, and they found a journal that he had been keeping since he was 21. And he basically wrote little notes about all of the arsons he claimed he was responsible for around the city, and there were apparently 1,400 arsons. I don't know if they ever confirmed that he did all of them, but that was in there. So on August 11th, 1977, he was interrogated for only 30 minutes, where he confessed to every shooting, and he expressed that he wanted to plead guilty. So now, the moment you've all been waiting for, where he got the name, the Son of Sam. So in his apartment building that I said that he moved to, he had a neighbor by the name of Sam Carr. And Sam had a Labrador retriever who, Berkowitz, the Son of Sam, he claimed the dog was possessed by an ancient demon who commanded him to kill. So the Son of Sam was like the dog, and the demon that was in the dog apparently possessed the Son of Sam to go kill people. That's where the schizophrenic paranoia comes into play. And a direct quote that I have from the Son of Sam is, "The dog demanded the blood of pretty young girls." In a letter to the New York Post that he apparently sent, I don't know what letter, but he finished it with, "There are other sons out there. God help the world." So, after his sentencing, where he pleaded guilty, the Son of Sam attempted to jump out of the window of the courtroom, which was on the 7th floor. But he was restrained, and once he was restrained, he began to chant, "I'd kill her again. I'd kill them all again." He then went under a psychiatric examination, but they determined that he was fine to still stand trial, and, so that didn't really change anything. So he basically got 25 years for each murder, so he would spend his life in prison. But the weird thing is, I guess it's not, no, it's weird. So in prison, he was the ideal prisoner, and he claimed that he had a change of heart. He converted to Christianity, which I'm not saying that, you can get saved whenever you want, no matter what you did. Well, we won't go into that, but he also started to refer to himself as the Son of Hope instead of the Son of Sam. And he was literally the ideal prisoner. He never gave them any trouble. I don't know what switched in his brain, but he became the Son of Hope, apparently. So he was up for parole in 2016. I don't know why. He was denied, and apparently he's eligible for parole again in 2020, this year. But everything that I read and all the quotes I read, whatever, everybody knows that it's not gonna happen. He's gonna spend the rest of his life in jail. So I don't really know why he's up for parole, but whatever. And now he even has, because of how he's changed and whatever, he has a little cult following. People actually look up to him in this cult and want to hear what he has to say, and it's just weird. I don't know, it's weird. But anyway, that is the bizarre case of the Son of Sam. It didn't happen. It happened 60 years ago at this point, so I'm sure maybe some of you, I don't know, remember when that was happening. guys, so that is The Son of Sam. I hope that you guys enjoy this case. Continue to leave me your requests down below, and I will look into them. I thought about maybe doing some unsolved cases because I feel like I don't talk about those at all, and those deserve the most recognition, I think, because they're the ones that still can be solved. So if you have any unsolved cases too that you would like me to look at, just let me know. But that is going to be it for this video. So thank you guys so much